Good day, everyone, and welcome to our Innovation Creed Radio Coach and podcast. And today we are having a great guest coming in from Cape Town, South Africa, from Neurozone, studying neuroscience and the science of the brain and the regions of the brain for more than 15 years now. I believe that Chrisna is coming in with great studies about leadership, about resilience, about coaching. And she's doing this role in Neurozone, which is a company that is based in South Africa. And actually, it has built a great model for neuroscience coaching and neuroscience in leadership engagement and development and teams development also. It's really a great model that I encountered last year. And I believe that it's very beneficial to introduce this model, introduce the studies and the works of Chrisna and the team of Neurozone. Welcome, Chrisna, to the show. And I believe that talking about Neurozone and your studies is really something that really captures the heart. And I would love to hear it from you. Welcome to the show first.
Thank you, Mohammed. Thanks. Great to be here. Yes, so my roots lay very deep in neuroscience. I've been always very passionate about the brain and understanding, how brain and behavior work together, studied the brain region susceptibility to decline versus potential for renewal and plasticity for many years, and then ventured into the field of coaching because I'm really passionate about people as well, and especially the translation and communication of the science. And at the moment, I head the Neurozone coaching division at Neurozone, where we train certified coaches in integrating these principles of behavioral neuroscience into their coaching practice. And maybe I can tell a little bit about what Neurozone is. We're a neuroanalytics company. We're a team of experts in neurology, neuroscience, behavioral analytics, psychology, and coaching. So actually just a group of nerds together that's really passionate about the credibility of the science and making it accessible to everyone, translating it and understanding what the need to know basics are in the space of transformation, leadership, and coaching.
Wow, that's really amazing, and it sounds cool. And talking about being nerds, that's the good kind of nerds one wants to hang around with, like like studying people, behaviors, and connecting it with neuroscience. So I believe that you're doing this backed up with a research lab or something, or research facilities or partnership with universities. Can you tell me how you do your researches and how it develops? Because I believe that we have serious talk about resilience today and the findings you found about it. So just can you give us an introduction of how you do it, the methodology?
Yes, sure. So we've developed a behavioral code, which we call the high performance code. This has been a code in development for the last 10 years. Our thought leader, Dr. Etienne van der Walt, is a neurologist himself, as he's the thought leader that really created this. It started out as a theoretical model based on peer-reviewed neuroscience, the integrative behavioral neuroscience field. And over time, with the data that we've generated received, it's actually became a predictive model, which is quite exciting. And the report that I'd like to talk a little bit about today, about how this behavioral code has shifted during COVID, just as a nice example to show that it's a dynamic, self-adapting code is really interesting. So we have many collaborations with universities. Yes, we've done a bunch of studies. We recently published a student burnout study with Tshwane University of Technology. And our resilience index that we actually use as part of our framework and part of our tools for organizations as well has been validated in a peer-reviewed journal recently as well. So yes, we bring about many collaborations with this deep understanding, but we've got a lot of data that comes in that tells us and indicates to us what are the key things that we need to focus on as human beings. And if I can tell you a little bit about this framework, It's looking at brain performance from basic to sophisticated. What do we need to understand in the space of brain-body optimization, right? Because it's one system. From basic to sophisticated, so from brainstem through the emotional centers, amygdala-driven centers, right through to the prefrontal cortex, which is your problem-solving brain. And what we've done by now is we've identified about 80 different behavioral states, daily rhythms of behavioral states, emotional states, and cognitive states that actually build resilience for our performance. And maybe it's important to just take a moment and say, what do we mean when we talk about resilience, right? Because yes. I think today we've got all these words, especially now after COVID, they've become mainstream: wellness, well-being, resilience, and organizations are really pulling together and running these programs to enhance the employee experience, right? Because we are facing what we would say is almost a mental pandemic that people are suffering after the COVID pandemic. And what's really interesting about wellness versus well-being and resilience. So wellness is really these you could call them acts of wellness, these things that we do every single day that help us to build our psychological well-being, our physical well-being, as well as our emotional well-being. Resilience, on the other hand, is how we respond to adversity and stress. Right, so there's two elements to building resilience. Being resilient means we bounce back. So there's that absorption of bouncing back to a state of calm after you've been under stress or you've been challenged. But it's got a second component that's really important, and that's the bouncing forward, the adaptation. Having now learned valuable lessons from this challenge that you've been through, you can now go forth and face more intense challenges and perform at a higher level. And resilience is the foundation that well-being is built on. It's the foundation that thriving is built on. And in the end, that's what we want, right? We want thriving individuals, thriving leaders, thriving organizations. So just to position it that way.
Wow, how you articulate it is really amazing, and I love each time I hear it from you, because actually it gives me a great insight on how passionate you are about it and how you really curved some factors or determined some factors that are really significant and meaningful in the science of resilience and working with clients on resilience. So would you like to share some results of this study and how the methodology went, and how I know that you've been there for years doing it. So can you just shed some light on how this study started and how it's developed, and share some results on that?
So let me start by saying that when we bounce back from a challenge, right, we bounce back to a state of calm. This is a baseline, relaxed physiological state. That's the state in which the stress response is kept low, and we have the problem-solving brain really active, and we have lots of energy for our performance. And it's really important that we bounce back to that state or that we moved to that baseline relaxed physiological state, that state of calm. At Neurozone, we even call it the state of high-performance readiness. It's a state at which you're ready to jump into high performance. We need to move back to that state always, because if we don't, we risk, chronic stress, which could in the end even lead to burnout. So we need to move back to that state of calm, the baseline relaxed physiological state. Now, these behaviors that we've identified and that through our data has clustered together, looking at the brain performance from basic to sophisticated. They include, for example, daily rhythms of foundational drivers, which really speaks to the brainstem. These are exercise, nutrition, sleep, mindful meditative practices, straight through to the social, emotional states, which really talks about belonging, making meaning together, trust, entrustment, purpose, empathy, which is the glue that keeps us together. And then moving into the energy boosting states. And these are behaviors like gratitude, optimism, enthusiasm, even humor is an energy boosting state. And then the most sophisticated part, the higher order brain drivers would be innovation, creativity, curiosity, learning. These are examples of the behaviors that we study and we look at. And it's really interesting because you really need to incorporate a deeper understanding about all of that. And for coaches, and what we do at Neurozone is, it's one thing to say, here's 80 different behavioral states and mental states and cognitive states that you need to cultivate to be resilient, or get your coachee to cultivate, or leaders to get their teams to cultivate. But it's about understanding the context of these behaviors within what matters most to you. Translating your personal goals into these behaviors and understanding how they can get you to the state of a baseline relaxed physiological state, drive you to that state always, and then get you ready for high performance, to a space where you can really thrive. Now, I can show you some examples of how this code has shifted. Of course, COVID presented a wonderful experiment ground for us scientists to understand this. And, Mohammed, you could share some, I've shared with you some of the data that comes from this report. Everyone here, you're welcome to go download our report. This is the Neurozone Dynamic Neurobehaviors in the Workplace. And that's what we call these behaviors. Any behaviors that really impact brain performance, it's a neurobehavior, right? These are the key behaviors that we need to cultivate. What's fascinating about our behavioral code is if you look at the 2019 graph that I'm showing you here now, this code has been stable for many years up until the point that the pandemic hit, where you could see the top predictors of resilience is energy, optimism, which is an energy boosting state, reducing negative thought patterns, which is also an energy state, meaning in work life, which is all about connectors. That's my social safety, my collective creativity, my collaboration with others. And generic parts problem solving technique, which is an innovator. It's an ability to take a problem, break it down into its parts, and really come up with very creative solutions. So this code was very stable for many years. And then the pandemic hit, boom, and the entire code shifted. And you can show the next graph now. In 2020 and 21, this is still stable as it's showing now. And can you see how it shifted? That the top predictors of resilience at the moment is exercise duration, exercise diversity, both which we call high performance rhythms. These are behaviors that continuously drive you to a baseline relaxed physiological state that works with the most basic part of the brain stem. And then destructive habit avoidance and negative thought pattern reduction. Those are two energy boosting states. So isn't it interesting? And if you look at all the top 10 predictors of resilience that we have now, they're all about rhythms and energy, which means it's all about continuously driving you back to that state of calm, that baseline relaxed physiological state, and then boosting the amount of energy that you have available for high performance. Not to be confused with the energy that we burn from the fuel and the oxygen that we take in. This is all to do with the dopamine reward system. It tells the brain how much energy will be assigned to a specific task, how much energy I have available for high performance. And it's fascinating to see how this entire code has shifted. And this is valuable information, for coaches that need to guide clients. What are the things we need to focus on now? So it's one thing to understand that these are the key behaviors that we need to focus on, but we need to cultivate a mindset that knows how to adapt, and reprioritize this, what behaviors matter in reaction to whatever extrinsic or intrinsic stresses or variables come our way.
Wow. So it seems here from this study that whenever we want to work with a burnout symptom or work with a client who is really stressed, who doesn't know how to thrive or actually needs some coaching to move forward in their life, the first thing that we need to work on is their physical body, go ahead and exercise. That's simply what I understand from this report. So is that correct?
So, it's always interesting because, if you're going to sit there and tell a CEO or executive, listen, exercise is good for you, go do that, they're going to say, please bring me new news. This is not new news. I know, who doesn't know that exercise is good for you? But it's understanding it at a deeper level, understanding how different types of exercise impact different types of brain performance. Understanding that what exercise does to the brain-body system is drives that baseline relaxed state, that state of calm from which you're able to perform at a higher level, where your energy high performance energy is high, we're not depleting that energy. But another important thing about exercise is that it releases very important growth factors to build new brain pathways, to support existing pathways, but also to build new pathways. So when you think about learning and adaptation, it's so critical that we have everything that the brain-body system needs to learn a new behavior. So, people would say they look at this data and they think, you'd think in COVID that, the top predictors of resilience would have to do with social safety, because we're in isolation. We're worried about, the groups that we find ourselves in. But these behaviors correlate with each other. When I am moved to a baseline relaxed physiological state, I'm able to make better sense of my emotional interactions with others. I'm able to identify the best means to collaborate, but I'm also able to build the new pathways for the adaptation, to learn what needs to change and how. So what this tells leaders isn't, go and now become a fitness instructor to your team, but it's understanding the individuality of each team member, and that we all need to remain deeply connected, and that we need to consider that we have to allow the employees, for example, if it comes to exercise, to have a routine as part of their professional lives, to make time for that it's important for their performance, for their ability to learn and connect with others as well, because these behaviors impact each other. So that would be, what it comes down to. It's about understanding each of your team members as individuals, and then accommodating that. And as you can see, it seems like I'm continuously talking about connection, right? I'm talking about empathy, because I need to think in your shoes. I need to feel in your shoes as the leader of you, as part of my team, so that I can understand the best way to lead you. And we're all different, right? So it's understanding what matters most and how do we prioritize those behaviors, and how can we connect deeper to really, cultivate these behaviors.
Wow. So that's really profound. So, and how can this be implied, practically in coaching, like you said now, that you may ask the leaders or let the leaders understand deeper on the essence of letting people to exercise, the power of the energizers, or the having routines, connections, empathy, to build more resilient teams to thrive. But if we put this in a coaching practice, can you tell me more about how this is really framed and followed up, and learn from the field, especially that we know that these periods are really very stressful periods for leaders, with uncertainty, with a lot of economic crisis, international crisis. Everybody is panicked, everybody is anxious. So I want to see how it happens really, practically in the coaching arena with the clients.
So I think, when we speak to coaches, we speak to leaders as well. The most important thing for the leader at the moment is, creating the leader as the coach. We're moving from IQ to EQ. The leader now has to be the coach of their team. They need to have all these additional responsibilities with not necessarily more pay or more time in the day, but it's important, so when we talk about coaching and how do you take this deeper understanding of the neurobehaviors into that coaching space and also into the leadership space, then it's not, you could look at what the top predictors of resilience are at any given point, but it's very important to have a deep understanding of what all the different behaviors are, what are the things that I need to focus on, and really cultivate that. The most important thing, so when we, for example, integrate this into coaching practice, it's multifaceted. So on the one hand, yes, we want our clients to cultivate these behaviors. We want to motivate them and get them to buy in to, looking after their exercise routine, cultivating empathy, being more innovative. We want them to cultivate this. But as the coach and the leader, it's important to have a deep understanding of these neurobehaviors because you can integrate it into the way that you coach. And we already do that, right? In coaching, if you think about the innovators, which is all about abstraction and cognitive flexibility and learning. When you sit in that coaching space, coach with coachee, you ask those tough questions. But why? What if? How? You're expanding their perspective. And you're asking them to connect with a network, to keep them accountable, and to have that support as well. So there's a lot of it that you're already doing as a coach. So maybe it's highlighting and having a better understanding of the deep value that those behaviors have on optimizing the brain-body system. But as a coach as well, when you design practices and activities, if you can build in as many of these little behaviors into the way that you design the activities and practices, with the formula that we use at Neurozone, low energy for high yield, which is really important. How can I tick as many boxes as I can with one activity, with one thing? Let's say gratitude, for example, the practice of gratitude that so many coaches are so familiar with. If you practice gratitude at a daily basis, and I'm not saying take a moment and say, what am I grateful for in life? You're going to say, I'm grateful to have a roof over my head and, a family, and then it gets old by day 3. It's about at the end of each day, looking at your day and thinking, what am I grateful for that happened that day? Then what you're doing is you're telling your brain that certain goals are being met. I have things that I'm being grateful for. And there's a dopamine response in return, which is an energy boosting state, right, from gratitude. Now do that for long enough as a daily rhythm. You start going about your day looking for things that you're grateful for that you want to, list later, which means that you're actually driving optimism as well, right? And if you're optimistic and you keep telling your brain, I've got things that I'm grateful for, the brain drives the body into a baseline relaxed state because it says, I don't have to be ready for stress. I don't have to activate a physical stress response. Things are going all right. I have more energy available for high performance, which means I have more energy available for innovative, creative problem solving and strategic thinking, which is the most energy intensive processes of the brain. So that's just a simple example. I could go on about gratitude as an example, but if you look at these behaviors and understand how you can cultivate them in multiple ways, integrate them into the coaching space, you as the coach as well need to cultivate them in your life so that you can coach from experience, right? Guide your clients from experience. And then translate these behaviors into their personal goals that the client brings to understand that. Let's say, for example, exercise. If I get up early in the morning, getting up early in the morning in the winter to go exercise is hard, right? I have to motivate myself. I want to go exercise. But if I understand that by doing this, I actually drive myself to a baseline relaxed state, which means I am cultivating better behaviors because I'm in a better mood in my day. Maybe that's a bigger purpose for me. Maybe I want to perform at a higher level in my job, so I know that doing certain exercises help with focus and concentration and releasing growth factors for learning. So the moment that you put these behaviors in the context of a larger purpose, and that's the key. That's the mindset that thrives. Is understanding that when I belong, and if I can cultivate a sense of belonging and a sense of purpose, it drives me. So the brain understands exercise is not just exercise. It's a key stepping stone to get me closer to a larger goal, which might be learning for this course or performing at a higher level, having more energy, being in a better mood, etc. And the moment that you can conceptualize a behavior like exercise in the context of a larger purpose, your brain assigns more energy to do it. So you don't work harder to do it. It just becomes easier to do because you have more energy available to do it. It values it at a higher energy level, if that makes sense.
Yes, very, very much. So you have shared with me these interesting, results between the two, the 2019 and 2021. And I want to thank you actually for, how this energizers or this energy, the dopamine, how it works to restore me back to the balanced state so that I actually can go to the high performance. So would you like to maybe shed some light on what was the core difference between 2019 and 2021 and why did this happen, or what was behind these changes or shifts? Yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, we can speculate many reasons for why this could be. What's fascinating is that you could see all the different colors, which means that there are very different categories of behaviors that actually predicted resilience before the pandemic hit, including, innovators and transformers. Transformers being, mindset, mindfulness as a trait, for example. And then it all moved, and you could see it's only energy and rhythms by now. So it tells you that the most primitive state of the brain, we understand that we're under stress, we need to change, we need to adapt, and therefore we need to put ourselves in the best position to learn and make sure that we have enough energy available to override the default, right? We've got default pathways in the brain that's established over time, and it takes additional energy to override that and growth factors to build new pathways. And it's interesting, we can only do that when we are continuously driven back to that baseline, relaxed physiological state, the state of calm, from which I'm able to perform higher. So it seemed to come down to those basics. So if we want to be surviving and adapt in the current circumstances, these are the behaviors that we should probably focus on first. Make sure that we recover, go back to that state of calm, and then make sure that we boost the amount of performance energy that we have available so we can move into a space of thriving again. So that's kind of what the takeaway would be from this graph, without getting into too many speculations. And these are for the kind of recommendations that leaders and and organizations can use, that coaches can use to guide individuals to understand, under the high performance rhythms, what does the data tell you? Regular and diverse types of exercise, continuous mobility, critical. Like we sit in front of our computer screens all day. Can we have those mini breaks? Can we get up? Can we move? High performance energy, destructive habit avoidance, avoiding negative thought patterns. Potentially we can replace the mind space that's being put to that with gratitude, optimism, enthusiasm, maybe even humor, and boost the amount of energy that we have available. And then, of course, the most important thing, which I mentioned in the beginning, and that is that when you want to be resilient, it's critical that resilience also involves a learning component, the adaptation, the innovators, cultivating micro opportunities for micro learnings whenever you can, cultivating a team, an organization where mistakes are welcomed because they provide wonderful learning opportunities. I don't have to feel anxious because I failed and made a mistake if I can look at it through curious, enthusiastic to learn eyes. And then it just switches the whole brain activation to another space. These are the type of takeaways that we can take from this, which is really, fascinating conversation points in the coaching space. But in the end, I think the take-home message would be leaders and coaches for coaches that coach leaders, they need to drive that systems awareness. And in a living system, everything affects everything. We need to cultivate daily behaviors of these rhythms. We need to connect, we need to belong, we need to prioritize goals in the context of a larger purpose. We are together, business to the brain. At Neurozone, we also business to the brain is the fact that we put resources together, we share resources together, we collaborate. Because to our brain, after getting food, getting water, getting air, our survival as part of the group, to make meaning together and to belong is the most important thing for us. So leaders need to understand that we are part of this living system where everything affects everything. And I think that would be the take-home message of this conversation today.
That's really very profound. I believe that you've shared with us the link for this, So can you talk about what they can find, what can the audience find in Neurozone? Maybe if they want to make any contacts with you or something, what to expect?
Yeah, wonderful. They can go visit our website. The link that's underneath the screen there will take you directly to this report that I've discussed, the data, where the data just come from, this Neurobehaviors, Dynamic Neurobehaviors in the Workplace Index that we published at the end of last year. If you go onto our website, we've got a number of resources as well as our public published articles, and you can go look. We've got some assessment tools that organizations and leaders can use with their teams, where we actually assess. We use our behavioral code, and we assess what are your top 10 predictors of resilience, or what are your top predictors. It will give you the biggest bang for your buck. Look, cultivating all these behaviors is what you need to be doing, prioritizing what needs to happen first to give you that biggest bang for your buck. That's really critical, and the tools will provide that. And if anyone's interested in finding out about the training that we provide, a continuous coaching education training, ICF accredited, they're welcome to reach out. They've got my contact details there, and just reach out if anyone's interested. We love people. People change people, and we love learning from everyone that joins us, all the coaches that come through our training, and the leaders as well. So yeah.
So I really loved the conversation today, Chrisna. It was really very beneficial, and actually I'm learning each and every time we encounter. I'm learning something new. So today it was really enlightening to me. And I believe that the discussion still continues, because you promised us to have another another episode on the Tuesday, 5th of July at the same time. It's about high performance energy, right? So we will go deeper
into high performance energy specifically, and see how important that is. What the brain pays attention to unconsciously, and how that relates to the amount of energy we assign to tasks.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to this episode, and I believe that it will be of a great value. Can you tell me how many languages your report is actually generated? How many languages do you support? Do you support, for instance, Arabic in the Arab region, or it's only English, or how many languages are supported?
At the moment, it's only English at the moment. So we are moving into a space where we want to start translating, the assessment tools and everything in a few other languages. But at the moment, the report and this would be in English. Yeah.
Okay, that's amazing. Thank you, Chrisna, and looking forward for the next episode with Chrisna Swart, and actually with Neurozone studies for high performance energy. And I believe that we will go deeper into what energy means in the model of Neurozone, and how to restore, come back, and actually it all builds on resilience, thriving, growth, dealing with what we are dealing with these days. It was really a very valuable, amazing conversation today. And to contact Chrisna or Neurozone, you have the contacts down there, okay? And you have also my contacts if you need anything from me, as Muhammad Sharafuddin. And thank you for these amazing 30 minutes discussion. It was really a blissful morning. Thank you for that. I'm very grateful for this start, and looking forward for our next interview. And for everyone, have a great day. Goodbye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.